Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Janavalabha Girivardhari Janavalabha Girivardhari Shodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Samasundara Samasundara. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Acharya Sudhar Sudhar Divine Guest, Abhachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Iskan Pamacharya Divine Guest Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Vishnu Paparam Sabharvati Acharya Sudhar Sudhar Shri Divine Guest, Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anand Puri Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Viras Thakur Ki Jai, Prince Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sri Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai Shri Shri Hare Krishna Gopal Shyam Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavan Ki Jai Gandharajman Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glory, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees. Thank you very much for attending. Just a sound check before we continue. If you can see my full slide screen shows presentation and also how is the sound. Sound all good. Thank you very much. So we are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. Text verses 16 to 21. This is part 2. We're going to be covering the stages of the process of bhakti. Let us do the invocation. Om Jnana Timivandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shrutada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Biyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhantaratnadya Sarva Lokai Pripada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kali Dvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Sharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishna Bhagavatam. I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you unattains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bando Mat Sangin, Mad Guru Man Mahadana, Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya, Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu Sadhu Tadain, Atti Nichocha Taraka, Hanamuncha Kada Chinmam, Premna Ritkatayo Spura, O Srimad Bhagavatam, who give us saintliness to the unsaintly, who are uplifted very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest my heart throat. accompanied by pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Janmadhyasya yatonvayaritarata charte swabhigna swara. Tene Brahma Hidaya Dikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya. Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Sorgom Risha. Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him to the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalpaisha sabya kalabasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo mandabhagyo padrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayanam namaskritya narachevam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tapojaya mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radoksaje ahoitukiya pratihataya yatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which man can attain to the loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janatyayasu Vairagyam Gnanam Chayad Ahoitikam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shurshusho Shradanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahat Savaya Vipra Punya Kirtani Shevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees are completely freed from all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranrutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryaddantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Shurichatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire of material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayashu badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktiribhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are covering Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Let us recap, get some feedback from the devotees. Please share with us what you took home, what you learned from last week's lesson, part 1, from verses 16 to 21. You can either unmute yourself or you can type in the chat. Mother Les says, developing a taste to hear about Shri Krishna and his activities, then you get punya, where Krishna will personally come into your heart and cleanse your heart with his own hands. Very true. Madhachana Siddhi says, Krishna is very selfish. He wants our love only for him. Yes. Mother Krishna says, Hare Krishna, as we progress on the bhakti road, let us use the person and book Bhagavad to assist us. Correct. Let us use both these personalities. Mother Hemavati says, how Sri Krishna cleanses our heart with his own hands, importance of blessings. Krishna doesn't send anyone. He personally comes. What you sow, so shall you reap. Yes. And due to our past, we have neglected Krishna for so long. Therefore, it behooves us to burn all our past karma. But Krishna is very kind. When he sees we turning towards him, he becomes very happy. And therefore, he helps us. He minimizes the reactions. And in so many ways, Krishna helps us. Nalinikanda says, serve all devotees. Correct. Don't be selective. And in fact, the more you serve the new souls that come into Krishna consciousness, the more pleased Krishna becomes. Sham says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, without becoming a Brahmana, nobody can become a Vaishnava. Correct. We need to cultivate Brahmanical, godly qualities in the mode of goodness. If we become true Vaishnavas, we will develop true devotional godly qualities in mode of goodness. Lord Prabhu, we don't want to create smoke. We want to create auspiciousness by reading in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, I give the example of how somebody called me and I told them, it seems like you want a yagya, means you want smoke. In this age, Sankirtan yagya, congregational chanting of Hari Katha, Hare Krishna mantra, that is the real yagya. And even though we may have those other yagyas like initiation, wedding, it's really secondary. Even if you don't have that in one sense, ultimately, just having Krishna Katha, that is perfect. But because people are repulsed and attracted by externals, then those ceremonies are there. Bhavana says, appreciated the mapping out of the stages of bhakti. It was so nice to learn about relationship between Bhagavan and Bhagavata, learning the role of spiritual mass and serving those for Krishna to be pleased. Yes, be always joyful. Prabhupada says, if you're not happy, you're not Krishna conscious. And gratitude is a sign of love. And the more our love increases, the more our gratitude increases. The more our gratitude increases, the more our love increases. Vasaraj Prabhu says, by reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, we are serving Srila Prabhupada. Yes. Thank you very much for all your wonderful feedback. Now let us proceed with today's part 2. So today, Sham says, if we complete surrender, we will have 0 karma. Correct. No karma left. So we're going to now cover the bhakti road in today's lesson. And we're going to look at the same bhakti road, but from a different perspective, from looking at different scriptures. So it gives you a little more reference material so that you can analyze your progress using the different verses from different scriptures. We will go into details of the different anarthas, different obstacles that are on this road of bhakti, so that we can be aware, we can be prepared. When we know the roadmap and we can see, okay, just like if you're going to take a road and a GPS or a signboard may tell you that this road is blocked or there is an accident, therefore, take a detour, etc., slow down. So it's giving us a warning. the anarthas that we're going to cover will give us a warning, give us a sign that we should be careful of these on this path. Then we'll also look at different types of devotional services. And then we'll see how best and effectively we can manage these anarthas. And I also asked you to memorize the different stages of bhakti. So let's just cover, if 3 devotees can unmute and share with us from memory the 9 stages of devotional service. And hopefully you memorize the Sanskrit. Yes, Madam Avati.
Sraddha, faith, sadhu sanga, association with sadhu saints, bhajana kriya, perfection of devotional practice, anartha nivrtti, to decrease unwanted attachments, nishtha, steadiness, ruchi, taste, ashakti, attachment, bhava, love, prema, pure love of God.
Very nice. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Without looking at your notes. Anyone? Even some of the seasoned devotees can share. One more, at least. Okay, so the rest of you, please try to memorize. If you know it, great. If you're shy, it's one way to break your shyness, to share. Krishna becomes very pleased. He's in your heart, so he'll become very pleased. So try to memorize. It is important because it will help us. It will also give us a clue. Where are you on this roadmap, right? And where you need to go. So very important. Okay, so I'm going to now cover this roadmap, and I'm going to share an example. So the example is, we want mango lassi, not just mango, not just wonderful ripe sweet mango, but we want mango lassi, yogurt milkshake or yogurt lassi, right? So lassi is yogurt, so it's a mango shape with yogurt. So that's what we want. Now, the challenge is I don't have any mangoes. It's, there's absolutely no mangoes. It's possibly not even mango season, and I can't buy any mangoes from any shop. So now the question is, what am I going to do? I want mango lassi. What am I going to do? And I cannot buy any mangoes. What am I going to do? I hope you can hear me. Any suggestions? Can relish in the mind? Well, that's one option, but that may not be a very good option, because having sense gratification in the mind is a little difficult. I really want to enjoy lassi. It's one option. Just like somebody says, okay, Sunday feast, who wants prasadam? Me. Okay, you can enjoy in your mind. Not a good option, right? So yes, okay, get some artificial flavoring. Oops, no, I don't want artificial flavoring either. Not a good option. You can change the fruit from mango to something else. No, Prabhupada says mango is the king of fruits. I want mango. Grow the mangoes, but that will take long. All right, I'm going to come to that. Atmadarshini, I'm coming to that one. Ask Krishna to show you the way to get this. If he desires mango lassi, Krishna is going to say, get some work done, right? And Nimai says, use concentrated mango syrup. The problem with concentrated mango syrup is maybe genetically modified, maybe artificial ingredients there. I want real lassi. I don't want imitation from this material world. Get mangoes from somebody else. The problem is I can't get any mangoes. They don't have either. Right? So there is no mangoes. Okay, so Atma Darshini had the answer. Grow the mangoes. But now, growing the mangoes, as you mentioned, is going to take a long time. So now the question is, I want mango lassi, and it's going to take a long time. My question is, why would I go through the effort, even if it's going to take a long time? Why would I go through the botheration of growing my own mangoes, even if it's going to take a long time? Because I really, really want it. It's more relishable. It's worth the effort. We will enjoy it more. You will eventually have a steady supply of mangoes. Excellent answers. Fantastic. Yes. And as Atmadarshini said, because we really, really want it, because even if we're not there, someone else can have it. That's also true. Even if I don't, I grow a tree, and even if I die, somebody else can have it. So I'm serving them also. So very, very good. Jayananda, yes, since Viresh brought this up. So Jayananda, one of Prabhupada's dear disciples, he would go to an apple tree. He would offer the whole apple tree, take all the apples, and go and distribute the apples. Then he would come back to the apple tree, and he would spend 1 hour reading Krishna book to the apple tree in gratitude. Thank you very much for offering your apples in the service of Krishna. And then he would reciprocate like this. Bafana says, I believe it's strong attachment, cognitive rigidity, because our ultimate goal is to have it. Very good. So if you really want that mango lassi, loba, greed, yes, I want it. Under no circumstance, I'm not going to give up that goal. I want it. I'm greedy for it. You will do whatever it takes, however long it takes, to get that dream fulfilled. So mango lassi is compared to prem, pure love of Krishna. That's our goal. That's our objective. Through this journey of growing my mangoes, I need to always keep in sight my goal, my desire, my intense desire, my greed to get mango lassi. Right? So that's pure love of Krishna. Therefore, you see it's right on top, next to pure love of Krishna. That's the goal. That's the objective. Okay, so I have the clear roadmap. I need to grow my mangoes. Now, there is, many places I can go I need to grow, so I know I need some seeds. So I can go to a jeweler shop. I can go to a pharmacy. I can go to a wholesale shop that sells shoes. I can go to different places to get seeds. But if I go to those places, I will be cheated. So therefore, if I want mango lassi, I need to have some understanding of mango. And I need to know that, okay, if I want mango, I need to grow a mango, I need mango seeds, I need to go to a nursery. So therefore, the first thing I do is I visit a nursery to get some seeds, because without seeds, I cannot grow mangoes. So then I go to a nursery. And I come to the nursery and I see a gentleman there, and I chat with him and says, you know what, I want mangoes, I want to grow mangoes. So I need some mango seeds. And he says, no problem, sure. And he comes and he gives me these mango seeds. And naturally, if he puts the seeds in my hand and I look at them, I have no clue that they're mango seeds. But I need one thing. If if I'm meant to be successful on this path, I have to have faith. Faith that this person who's working in the nursery, working with flowers, knows about what is, what he's doing in terms of seeds, etc. He knows about mangoes and is giving mango seeds, and therefore I trust. I have faith that yes, I believe you, and therefore I take the mangoes and I go home. So I go home, I take the mangoes, and I put the mangoes under my pillow. Then after 1 week, I look under the pillow and nothing's happening. And I'm wondering, wow, why isn't this thing growing? So then I phoned the nursery and I say, hey, Guru Bhai, what happened? The mango is not growing. And the guru, the devotee, Bhakta Mango, he's going to say, hey, that's what you do with what do you do with the seeds? Put it on the pillow. No, you can't put it under the pillow. You have to go to the garden at the back, make sure the soil is fertile, put some water, put some fertilizer, and then sow the seeds there. So I need the association of the devotees to share with me the process of devotional service, the process. So the gardener, the nurseryman, he is like the devotees. So again, I need faith that, okay, what he's telling me is true. In the beginning, we need faith, but it's not blind faith. That faith will be tested, and that faith can be verified as the stage progresses. So I said, okay, cool. I take my seeds from under the pillow, I go in the backyard and put it in the ground. So I drop my seeds in the ground, and he said I must water it. I must make sure there is enough sufficient sunlight. And I keep doing that for a few days. And after some time, I see some seedlings, some plants sprout. But then I look at those and I say, that looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 different varieties. I mean, I would expect one plant. Okay. Inky, pinky, bonky, daddy bought a donkey, pull that one out. Inky, pinky, bonky, pull that one out. Nope, that's not the way to do it. Okay. You don't choose which one you want to remove. So again, you call the nursery. And you speak to your friend. Hey, I planted the seeds, I watered it, but I got half a dozen here. Which one do I pull out? And he may say, take snaps and send it to him. So I take the snaps and send it to him. Then he tells me, pull the one on the right, pull the one on the left, leave the one on the center with the long leaves. So I uproot those weeds that have also come out. I didn't plant weeds, but they manifest on their own accord. So I uproot the weeds, leave the actual mango plant, and he tells me, keep watering and make sure there's enough sunshine. And if there's any other weeds, keep removing them. So I need faith in the process, and my guide, the sadhus, the devotees are the guides, they're helping me. They will tell me the process, bhajana kriya, of watering and making sure there's enough sunshine, and as well as by the process of devotional service, anartha nivrtti, the weeds will be uprooted. So as I keep doing this, now my mango plant is slowly growing from a seedling to a young plant, and I have to keep watering. Therefore, it's a cultivation. I can't just water once. I need to constantly put water, and I need to protect the plant. I also need to remove any weeds that are there. So in this way, I keep watering, maybe for months, maybe for years. And the plant is growing and growing. And now, as this process is happening, I'm getting excited. In the beginning, I had to plant the seeds and I was waiting and waiting and waiting, something's not happening. Then I see the seedlings, I get a little excited. Now it's getting a plant, I get more excited. Now I slowly see some fruit, I get even more excited. So this is the same thing that happens on this path of bhakti. One sees the result and one naturally gets excited. So now the plant, the tree is becoming stronger, it's becoming steady, nishtha, it's becoming grounded. Now even small weeds cannot impact the tree. And my taste for the mangoes is now becoming even stronger. Now my tongue is starting to water. I can't wait for the mangoes. And after a few years of continuous watering, making sure the sunshine is there, I now have my mango tree. And now I'm really attached. Not only because I'm seeing the mangoes, now my faith has been verified. My trust, faith means trust in something sublime. So that trust has been verified. I'll go to the nursery and I'll speak to the gentleman and say, thank you very much. These are very good mangoes. And I expected a little longer, but actually it came very soon. And now I'm at a stage of bhava, because I'm already seeing the first rays of the mangoes and the mango lassi. I'm not fully there, but it's getting ripe. And then the mangoes become ripe by constant watering and sunshine. And finally, I take the mangoes and I have my mango lassi made. And that's the stage of prema. So in this way, I go from having faith in my guides that will show me how to plant the seeds of mangoes. By their guidance, by their association, I engage in the watering process, the cultivation process, bhajana kriya. While engaging in the process of bhajana kriya, I also have to be very careful of the weeds. And the process itself will uproot those weeds. Then as the plant and creeper grows, I become more steady in my practice. I begin to develop stronger taste, stronger attachment. And then finally I get mangoes, which is the fruit. And then I can take the mangoes and enjoy so many different foodstuffs with mangoes. And in this way, I have this analogy to understand the path or the bhakti roadmap. So now we're going to cover this roadmap from different scriptures. And we can use these different references to analyze where I am on the path of devotional service. So first, this roadmap specifically is from Nectar Devotion. And Prabhupada writes there are three categories of devotional service, which Rupa Goswami describes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subcategories in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service in practice, there are two different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. So if you want to know more about these different stages, please read Nectar Devotion. Our recordings are also online. So sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, bhava bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy, and prema bhakti, devotional service in pure love of Krishna. Now in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives in chapter 12, 4 verses, 12:8, 12:9, 12:10, and 12:11 to 12. And these verses which Lord Krishna is giving is actually sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and then prema bhakti. So in 11 to 12, renunciation, Krishna is recommending renunciation of fruit of actions, meditation, cultivation of knowledge. And by doing that, we will slowly rise to the platform where we can start working for Krishna. And as we work for Krishna, we will slowly rise to the platform where we can follow the regular principles of sadhana bhakti. And by doing that, we will slowly come to the stage that Krishna is recommending, fixing our mind completely on him. So these are 4 verses, in essence, summarizing these 3 different stages. So here we can use this quality or this qualification of fixing our mind. The closer you to prema, that means the goal, the end result, the more your mind will be fixed on Krishna. You will see as you progress, you will find that your mind becomes more and more drawn towards remembering Krishna. And that's a way you can evaluate. Over time, you will see this. In the beginning, just like when you're chanting Hare Krishna, your mind goes everywhere. As you keep chanting and you're progressing on this path, you'll be able to see that your mind now gets less distracted. In the beginning, it's like a erratic heartbeat. And then slowly it begins to become tamed. When you attain pure love of Krishna, then your mind is 100% fixed, absorbed, focused on Krishna. It does not want to be distracted to anything else. Because why? You're in love with Krishna. When you're in love with somebody, you always contemplate, think about them. So that's a way we can measure our progress. Right? If you find that your mind is becoming more and more distracted, more and more absorbed in anything not Krishna, then we need to pause. We need to evaluate. We need to see. Just like if if tonight you watch a film that's not related to Krishna, tomorrow your japa will be impacted. It will be very difficult to actually focus on your chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Then in Taittiriya Upanishad, there are 6 stages of conscious evolution. So here I got sadhana bhakti on the far right, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. And Prabhupada uses these different terminologies also to describe from Taittiriya Upanishad the different stages of life. We have material consciousness and we have spiritual consciousness. And I'm not going to go in too much detail on these different roadmaps, but just to give you a glimpse that it all aligns to these different stages. So here are the different stages or the details of the stages. So you'll see material consciousness starts off as a baby. The baby is always in this consciousness of Annamaya. So Annamaya consciousness, that means life as food. You'll see the baby grows up, is born with this type of consciousness. Everything is food, meaning for the baby, life means food. It'll take anything and everything and put in the mouth. Okay, whatever it finds, whatever it grabs, put in the mouth. Why? Because Annamaya, the consciousness of food, the consciousness of life as food. Then as the child grows up, then the child begins to forget about food and start to experience life as energy. Pranamaya, you see, then children like very active, very energetic. They want to go outside and play. They want to do things, very active, hyperactive. Okay, Pranamaya. For them, play is life. And as the child grows up from boyhood to youth, now in the form of youth, Manomaya, life as mind. The mind starts to become active, start to think, start to become more thoughtful. Education slowly will start taking birth, which then goes into the next stage, which is Jnanamaya, life as Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge, because that's generally in Vedic system, children were always taught from the Vedas, because then it gets connected to spiritual consciousness. If we're just teaching mundane consciousness, then it'll stay mundane. But we need to come to spiritual consciousness. So therefore, Jnanamaya. Then Vijnayamaya. As that knowledge becomes realized, we begin to understand ourselves. And then ultimately, when we begin to accept Krishna and love of Krishna, then we come to Anandamaya. So different levels of Maya, different levels of consciousness. And these different stages are corresponding to these different levels, right? Very generic, you could say, in terms of category wise, obviously we given more details here. You can always see in terms of level of advancement, a Kanishtadikari devotee, a neophyte devotee is generally still practicing here. Then a Madhyamadikari is anartha nivrtti and is going to Nishta, Ruchi, Shakti in this category. So they've really crossed this barrier of anartha nivrtti. And then the advanced devotees, Uttamadikari, they are either on the stage of bhava or prema. Then we come to Upadeshamrita. So here is the different stages again: Shraddha, Sadhu, Sanga, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha, Nivrtti, Nishta, Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhava, and Prema. So we can take Sri Shuddha Upadeshamrita, Neck of Instruction, and we can take those verses and we can see how these verses align to the different sections. Okay. And we can now go to these different verses and we can see, for example, verse 7, verse 8. If I want to advance, I need to apply these verses in my life and make sure that I've applied these verses, and slowly as I'm applying each of these verses and perfecting them, realizing them, I will progress naturally through the different stages. So I can even use these verses as a guide to see I'm progressing. I can use Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sri Shashastikam prayers. So these are the verses, 8 prayers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how they relate to the bhakti ladder. Okay, and I can take verse 1, Shraddha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the holy name, Sankirtan. Verse 2, talking about the power of the holy name. The holy name, Krishna has invested all his powers, and therefore chanting the holy name. So I chant the holy name, have faith in the holy name. That's bhajana kriya. Okay, Shraddha, Sadhu Sanga, bhajana kriya. I'm coming through the stages. Then as I keep chanting and I come to verse 3, then I know that I've passed anartha nivrtti. So therefore verse 3 is also very important. We can use verse 3. I can use that verse that I should offer all respects to others, not expecting anything in return. Be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and devoid of sense of false prestige, and kirtanya sadari, always chanting the holy name. So if I come to that stage, means I've passed anartha nivrtti. And then each verse then goes progressively into the bhakti ladder or the roadmap until I come to pure love of Krishna, which is verses 7 and 8. Then in text 8 of the Upadeshamrita, Srila Prabhupada talks about the stages of remembrance. And I can use the stages of remembrance also in relation to this roadmap and see where I'm on this roadmap, just analyzing my remembrance of Krishna. So, for example, from Shraddha to Bhajana Kriya, it's Shravana Dasa. I'm engaged in hearing Krishna Katha. So if somebody is engaged in hearing Krishna Katha, then they are on the road from Shraddha, Sadhu, Sanga, Bhajana Kriya, and they're progressing. Then when one begins to come to Varana Das, which means he accepts constant hearing of Krishna Katha, one is attached to Krishna Katha. So here one is hearing, here one becomes attached to hearing. So when one becomes attached to hearing, means he's progressing through anartha nivrtti and steadiness. Then as one is becoming attached to hearing, he's hearing more, and one come to smarana vasta or smarana dasa, remembering and chanting in ecstasy. And this goes to different stages also. Your remembering and chanting is, initially it's interrupted, then it becomes uninterrupted. Then it becomes uninterrupted and concentrated. Then it progresses further and your meditation expands and become constant. Then it's uninterrupted and unceasing. focus or meditation or samadhi. So like that, gradually the remembrance become more focused, more concentrated, more uninterrupted. Here you'll hear once a week. Here you'll hear regularly. Here your concentration becomes more focused. And as you advance, you come to a Shakti and Bhava, and then there is possession, apanadas, realizes one's constitutional relationship with Krishna. And then finally, Sampati Das, inheritance, where serving Radha and Krishna along with their eternal associates, you really become part of the family, the spiritual again. Okay, so you can use this also as a gauge. So we covered remembering Krishna as a gauge. You can use remembrance as a gauge, chanting the holy name of Krishna as a gauge, and you can use verses of nectar instruction as a gauge. Now, what happens on this path of bhakti? In the material world, you practice these different stages and you are progressing. And it will take you, for different individuals, it will take different time. It may take one life, it may take 2 lives, it may take 3 lives. However long it takes, as one is progressing, naturally, if you finish, let's say at bhajana kriya, or you're already there, or you're at anartha nivrtti, 50% of anartha nivrtti, next life you will start for 51. So you never go back, you always keep progressing. If you're nishta, and you let's say at 60% of nishta, next life you'll be 61% of nishta. So you'll continue. And in this way, you will keep progressing until you come to the stage of prema. When you come to the stage of prema, Krishna, from Madhurya Kadambini, Krishna describes, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur describes how Krishna appears to the devotee and fully manifests his personality to the devotee. Krishna shows his beauty, Krishna presents his bodily scent, his flute sound, his bodily touch. And it's explained when Krishna presents his beautiful form, the devotee who's now at a stage of prem becomes so absorbed on that form that all his senses, his ears, his nose, his tongue, all his senses become eyes. And they fully absorb Krishna's beauty with all his senses, and the devotee faints. Then the devotee wakes up and Krishna plays his flute sound. And this way mesmerizes his ears. And all the senses of the devotee takes on the form of ears. And they all absorb this beautiful sound coming from Krishna's flute. And they become so mesmerized by the sound, falls in ecstasy, faints in ecstasy. And like this, Krishna teases every single sense, completely surcharging with Krishna consciousness. After Krishna mesmerizes every single of the senses of the devotee, right to the touching of Krishna, Krishna then leaves. And this devotee now is left. You can imagine after this devotee, he faints when Krishna touches him, and he now comes back to consciousness. All he can see, all he wants to see is Krishna. All he wants to hear is Krishna. All he wants to taste is Krishna. All he wants to smell is Krishna's body. All his senses are hankering after Krishna. And he cannot find Krishna anywhere in this material world. And in desperation, in separation, he laments, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? To the extent that he's about to die in separation from Krishna. And just at the moment where he's now giving up his life because he cannot find Krishna anywhere, Krishna appears and embraces him. And in this way, he leaves his body and goes on to his next destination. Now, his next destination is not in the spiritual world. His next destination is also in the material world, but it is in Bhoma Vrindavan. Vrindavan in a universe, material universe, where Krishna is currently performing his pastimes. Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in one of the or in many of the different universes. So even right now, there's a universe where Krishna is performing a specific pastime. There's many universes where Krishna is performing all his different pastimes. Just like if you take a clock, right now it is 5 o'clock in the evening, afternoon. So there's somewhere 6 o'clock, somewhere is 7 o'clock, somewhere is 8 o'clock, somewhere it's 2 minutes past 5, 3 minutes past 5. Every single point on the clock exists at this point in time, somewhere on this planet. Similarly, all of Krishna's pastimes are like points on the clock, and they all exist somewhere in one of the universes. So the devotee now takes birth, and depending on his mood and his relationship with Krishna, let's say he takes birth as a female baby, born in a house of a gopi. And he's now born, he already has pure love of Krishna, and his love becomes more and more intensified and progressively becomes more and more developed. And he also is taught how to serve Krishna now. While Krishna is there in this material world, through the gopis, through Lalita, Vishaka, Rupa Manjari, all of them, they're now helping the soul, polishing the soul up. Here we were being taught by Rupa Goswami, by Srila Prabhupada, by Sanatana Goswami, through the different Bhakti Shastra, Bhakti scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, how to chant, how to serve, how to worship Krishna. And here that service now becomes refined directly in relation to Krishna through the intimate associates of Krishna. And then as one perfects one's life here completely, then next life back to the spiritual world in Navadvip and Goloka Vrindavan. And in this way, one can actually engage in the service of Krishna. So we covered the different stages last week, 14 different stages. The 9 different stages are there, and Sudha Goswami added through the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam the additional stages, which complements the 9 stages, but just gives details of them. So we're just going to briefly cover those stages again from verses 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 that we covered. In 16, Sraddha, sadhu, sanga, bhajana, kriya, service to devotees, gives affinity to hear about Krishna Katha. Now, I like to ask on the devotees here, you can type in the chat, how did you come in contact with Krishna consciousness? What was your first contact to spirituality or to Krishna consciousness? What is your initial contact? What happened? You can share. What was your first exposure to Krishna consciousness? Reading Science of Self-Realization, met a devotee. I was born in Krishna consciousness, fortunate. I read Srila Prabhupada's books, visited my home with a book when I was little, Back to Godhead magazine, met devotees. Good. Srila Prabhupada's books, Father's ISKCON Life membership, yes, casually started coming to the temple, somehow got engaged in service, good. Yes, so you'll notice there's a common thread. The common thread is a devotee. You either got a book from a devotee, you visited the temple, that means somebody took you there, that person may be favorable, maybe a devotee, you met a devotee. I personally was told that that we Christians are fearful by someone who was practicing, and I was deep in faith in Christ. That was the spark. Yes, I found myself in the middle of Durban Rath Yatra, correct? So my parents brought all Srila Prabhupada's book pictures and contributed to the temple. So we see there's some connection, right, to a devotee. The devotee is arranging prasad, festivals, books, some form of exposure and contact. And that is now connecting you to the process of Krishna consciousness. So therefore, Sutta Goswami is making the point here that Satam Kripa, causeless mercy of the devotee, is really the trigger, is really the start, the spark that starts. And the devotee brings prasad, or you invited to a lecture, or you invited to a festival, which means now you're going to take part in the festival. You're going to take the prasad. You're going to read the book, which means you honoring and serving that devotee and devotees and Prabhupada by accepting that process. Therefore, Mahad Seva, your service to the devotees begin. And as that service to the devotees begin, you take the prasad, you come to the festival, and you think, wow, this is far out. I like this. It's nice. Nice festival, nice kirtan. I enjoyed it. Right? It may not be like that the first experience. Just like one devotee, he came to the temple for the first time. And I gave him some Mahaprasad. And he started eating the Mahaprasad. And as soon as he ate the Mahaprasad, he said, what is this? It's not tasting nice. So that was his first impression with taking Mahaprasad. So I said, no problem, just take it slowly. Now he's initiated, and now you give him Mahaprasad plate. Oh, he'll die for it. So initially he didn't like it. Why? Because his taste was for more material things. But at least he took it. He was serving the devotees. So in this way, he progresses, develops faith, sraddha. And then one takes shelter of the spiritual master. So that's verse 16, covering the first three stages. Then verse 17, Krishna then cleanses the heart of the hearer. So this is really the process of engaging in worship, leading to bhakti, engaging loving service. So bhajana kriya, this process of cultivation of devotional service. Prabhupada used the word cultivation. It's an act of cultivating, hearing, chanting, serving, rendering practical service. And as we render practical service, especially hearing Krishna Katha, Krishna cleanses Yabhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam. Krishna cleanses all the Abhadrani, all the anarthas from our heart. And the more attentively we hear, the more attentively Krishna cleans. If we hear spaced out, Krishna also cleans spaced out. If we don't hear, Krishna also don't cleanses the don't clean the heart. So in this way, as we respond and reciprocate to Krishna, Krishna reciprocates accordingly. Then verse 18, by regularly hearing the Bhagavatam, anartha, nivrtti, and nishta, now we are developing steadiness. We're hearing constantly, we're getting purified, we're coming to the stage of nishta. So here, bhakti, anartha, nivrtti, and then steadiness. So after anartha, nivrtti is generally the longest lap, takes the longest time on this road because of all the cleansing that needs to be done. Once that steep hill is over, we then go downhill. From nishta, it's downhill. In the beginning, it's very quick. Bhajana kriya and anartha nivrtti, that's the longest journey. And then finally, after nishta, it's downhill. So verse 18 covers the anartha, nivrtti, and nishta, okay, which is equivalent to the different stages. Then 19, the lower modes disappear, one becomes happy. So now there's a ruchi and a shakti, it's taste, ruchi and a shakti. And then finally, the mind is enlivened with bhakti. One realizes Krishna. That's Bhava Bhakti, Rati, and Prema. Sudha Goswami gives Rati, fondness, the mind becomes enlivened, loving devotional service, we get vision of Krishna, darshan of Krishna, and we directly experience Krishna's sweetness. So these are the different stages that we go through, and the equivalent 9 stages of bhakti, of process of bhakti that it's connected to. So the Bhakti Kripa describe that when we come in contact with a devotee, we get this seed planted in our heart, and it's compared to a Bhakti Kripa. Like that mango seed that's planted, so the Bhakti Lata Bij is planted in our heart, and we now need to water that seed. Naturally, we need to prepare the ground, the soil of the heart, and the soil is prepared with gratitude, humility, faith. This is how the soil is prepared, so that this seed can be sown in this fertile soil, and by watering, which is the quality of hearing, chanting on regular basis, so chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Krishna Katha, this is hearing Krishna consciousness. This is the watering process. As we water this Bhakti Kripa, we also need to remove all the unwanted weeds, because weeds, they actually stifle the Bhakti Kripa. They're parasitical, so they can take all the nutrients and they can destroy the Kripa. So we have to be very careful of the weeds. We also fence this Kripa, and fencing means we avoid any bad influence. And finally, we need to also make sure there's enough sunshine, which is the warmth of devotee association, a good like-minded association, advanced like-minded association. And in this way, if we have these factors, then this Kripa will grow and grow and grow right through the material universe, right into the spiritual world, and wraps around Krishna's lotus feet and bears the fruit of love of Krishna. So that's the Bhakti Kripa. And therefore, the example of getting the mango and trying to grow the mango tree is very, very apt in relation to the Bhakti Kripa. So anarthas. Sham, I will cover your question at the end. Anarthas. Becoming Krishna conscious, Prabhupada in the purport to Bhagavatam 7.5.32, Prabhupada says, becoming Krishna conscious brings about anartha apagama, the disappearance of all anarthas, the miserable conditions we have unnecessarily accepted. The material body is the basic principle of these unwanted miserable conditions. The entire Vedic civilization is meant to relieve one from these unwanted miseries, but persons bound by the laws of nature do not know the destination of life. So here Prabhupada is making very clear, Krishna consciousness means the disappearance of all anarthas. And anartha means the miserable condition we have unnecessarily accepted, or this material body. And in different purports, Prabhupada gives a definition of what anartha means. Prabhupada says all unnecessary things, all bad habits, and all unwanted things is called anartha. The Vedic literatures, the Vedanta, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and many others should be utilized if we wish to become free from the contamination of tamagun and rajagun. The whole world is revolving due to karma and lobha. Karma means lusty desires, and lobha means greed. People cannot have enough sex or money, and because of this, their hearts are filled with contaminations, which have to be cleansed by hearing, repeating, and chanting. Human life is meant to get rid of anarthas, unwanted things. But where is the university or college where this science of purification is taught? The only institution is this Krishna conscious society. Krishna is within the heart, and the contaminations are also there. But Krishna will help us cleanse them. Nasta prayasho bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavatam 1-18. We must regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and chant Hare Krishna. These are the two processes recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Haridas Thakur was chanting. Haridas Thakur was chanting 300,000 holy names a day, but we have fixed a number of 16 rounds. Nonetheless, we are so unfortunate and fallen that we cannot even perform them. We should not waste our time reading and talking nonsense, but should engage in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Our time is very valuable and we should not waste it. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is making very clear that, again, human life is there for us to get rid of all our anarthas, and the two processes, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna regularly. This is the two most important processes recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By engaging in devotional service, practical services, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna. This will effectively help us overcome all our anarthas. I'm going to play an audio. Prabhupada gives us a clear understanding of what an anartha is. From this lecture that Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan, October 29th, 1972. Very famous verse that we have been going over. Nasta prayasho bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. My regular attendance in the class on the Bhagavatam and my rendering of service to pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. So let's see if you can pick up Prabhupada's definition of anartha from this specific audio, and I have a transcript as well.
Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu. Abhadra, we have discussed yesterday, abhadrani, all dirty things. This material life means dirty life. People do not understand. They think by nice dress, a nice apartment, and nicely washed body, that is civilization. They do not know that what is the dirty things which has attacked him, what is the contamination, that he does not know. Lokasya ajanata. It is said that the fools, rascals, they do not know it. Anartha upasamang sakshat bhakti yugam adhukkaji. Lokasya ajanata vidyan chakre satata sanghita. Anartha. In the name of civilization, we have increased so many unwanted things, unnecessary. This is called anartha. Artha means which is substance. So, just like we can give so many examples, when there was no so-called advancement of civilization, people used to eat on utensils made of silver, gold, at least metal. Now they are using plastic. And still they are proud of advancement of civilization. Actually it is anartha. Anartha. Unwanted things. At least in 200 years ago, in India, there was no industry. I think I am correct. But people were so happy. They did not have to go 200 miles or 500 miles away from home. and for earning livelihood. In Europe and America, I see people are going for earning their livelihood by aeroplane, daily passenger. I've seen. From Vancouver, they are coming to Montreal and other places. 500 miles. At least 50 miles one must go. In New York, many people are coming from distant places, long islands, crossing the sea, then again bus, again. Anartha, simply, unnecessary. People, Chanakya Pandit says that who is happy? He says, the man who does not go out of home and who is not a debtor, he is happy. Very simple thing. Who does not go out of home and he is not a debtor, he is happy. So now we see everyone is out of home and everyone is a great debtor. So how you can be happy? In America, the bank canvasses that you take money, you purchase motor car, you purchase your house, and as soon as you get your salary, you give me. That's all. Finish. You take the card, American, what is called? M card? Yes. Bank card, that's how to. Bankrupt. You see? So you take the card, you purchase whatever you like, and deposit your money in the bank, then again you are without any money. Simply that card. That's all. So actually, we are creating anarthas. Anarthas means unwanted things.
So you can type in the chat all the different types of anarthas that Srila Prabhupada mentioned in this excerpt. Some of the lesser, all dirty things. So what are the examples of all the anarthas that Prabhupada covered just in this small few-minute clip? So yes, unwanted or unnecessary thing is a definition. What are the examples of unwanted, unnecessary? Motor cars, yes. Debt, very good. Increase unwanted things of civilization like long travel for business, money, cards, bank cards, yes. Cars. Far travel, debt, plastic utensils versus silver and gold, yes. Using plastic, bank cards, unstable house, correct. Apartment, nice apartment. Aeroplane. Nice dresses. Bus. Very good. And Prabhupada also right in the beginning says, nicely washed body. So even this body is an anartha. It's unwanted. It's actually a casing, a man attached to home. Right. So just from, we can see, these are all unwanted. Why? The soul does not need any of these things. This is all related to the material world and to the body. It's unwanted, anartha. Artha means something that is substantial, something that has substance. Anartha means no substance. So I told each one of you to make a list of your top 3 anarthas. Don't need to type it in the chat. Can keep that for yourself. But I want you to consider your top 3 anarthas. And if you look at this picture, which is taken from the sky in the desert, it's a true picture taken in the desert, you will see camels. And your anarthas are compared to these camels. These are the camels that you are seeing in this picture. Now, what's interesting is very often we perceive our anarthas like we are perceiving these camels in the picture. But actually, for Krishna, our anarthas are very insignificant. Krishna can just think and those desires can be gone, those anarthas can be gone. So if you're looking at this picture, right, there are many camels that you're seeing, but actually the size of the camels is all these small white lines that are shown, not what's in black. What's in black is actually the shadow of the camels. But the real camel is so tiny. So very often Krishna sees the real camel, which is very tiny, the real anartha, which is very insignificant. And we generally look at the anartha like big, like how these camels' shadows are big. Okay. So we should have firm faith that Krishna, for him, no anartha is big enough. No anartha is really an anartha or trouble for him. He can cleanse anything in your heart if you desire so. Now we're going to cover, and again, I'm not going to go into great detail. I'll just briefly touch on these aspects. In Madhurika Nambini, you can go through that booklet. Why we lack a taste for the process of bhakti. And the answer is because of anarthas. And there are 4 sources of anarthas. All these obstacles that we have in our heart, in our life, they come from 4 sources. First, and this is given by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, previous sins. Then previous pious activities. So even pious activities causes anarthas. Imperfectly performed bhakti and devotional offenses in devotional service. So in terms of pious sins, one may be envious, cruel, ugly, stupid, poor, uncontrolled, sensually, lusty, get angry easily, addicted to intoxication, in poor health, constantly lonely, criminal mentality, etc. These conditions make it difficult for one to practice bhakti. Then for previous pious activities, it is difficult to renounce or completely be devoted to the Lord. If one is very good looking, attractive to the opposite sex, has lots of money, is very intelligent and creative, all signs of past good karma, but, and this is may, right? It's not in all cases, just depends on each individual. It may become stumbling blocks on the path of bhakti. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhogeshwara prasaktanam tayaha pratichetasam. That for one who's attached to sense enjoyment and opulent life, resolute determination for devotional service does not sprout. So pious activities also cause anarthas. Imperfectly performed bhakti can cause anarthas. These are the 10 offenses, the holy name, offenses to the worship of the Lord, deity service, offenses to the devotees and the holy dham, and offenses to other living entities. They can also cause anarthas, obstacles in one's life. Then devotional obstacles. These arise in relationship to bhakti herself, such as profit, lobha, adoration, puja, pratishta, this distinction. One is looking, as one practices Krishna consciousness, one becomes more advanced, then people, they give you profit, adoration, and distinction. And one begins to enjoy these things. This also causes obstacles or anarthas. So these are generally 4 categories where we get sources, where we get obstacles from. Sinful activity causes obstacles for our future bhakti. Pious activities causes obstacles, imperfectly performed bhakti, and offenses within the process of bhakti. Now there are 4 types of misfortune, anarthas, obstacles on the path of bhakti. So we previous slide covered the sources. These are the 4 categories of anarthas. The first category, tattva vibhrama, philosophical misconception of the truth based on illusion. Second category, aparads, offenses of all different types. These are obstacles. Asatrishna, thirsty for the temporary. And hriday durbalyam, weakness of heart. So these are the 4 main categories of anarthas. And in each one, there are different examples or categories that fall in each one. So tattva vibhrama, philosophical misconceptions, illusion regarding one's own identity, illusion regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, illusion regarding the process of prema bhakti, and illusion regarding the process of sadhana bhakti. So in this way, one has illusion, Brahma, Swatattva Brahma, Paratattva Brahma, Sadhya Brahma, and Sadhana Brahma. Right? You have ignorance, illusion, misconceptions of these different truths. This is actually a anartha. Ignorance is an anartha. Then aparad, offenses. You get nama aparad, offenses to the holy name. Seva aparad, offenses made during service and worship. Vaishnava aparad, the most gravest of all of them. Dhamma aparad, offenses against the holy Dham. And jiva aparad, offenses against other souls. So these are different aparads that is actually an anartha. And as long as these anarthas are present, one's progress is checked or blocked or slowed down, and you have to uproot, you have to cleanse, you have to remove these obstacles for you to progress. Ashatrishna, tempters for temporary. People are interested either in bhakti, enjoyment of worldly enjoyment such as family, wealth, luxury, heavenly enjoyment in the form of birth in heavenly paradise after death, or mystic powers, siddhi, or bhakti, liberation from birth and death. Okay, so these are material enjoyments, temporary enjoyment that people look for. This is also an obstacle, anartha. And then weakness of heart, these come in 4. Tucha ashakti, attachment to things unrelated to Krishna and his service. Kuti mati, which means duplicity. Kuti nati means duplicity, deceitfulness, or fault finding. Matsarya, envy, coveting the good fortune of others. And pratishtasha, desire for name and fame. These are subtle obstacles, weaknesses in our heart that can create obstacles. So these are like anchors. If we consider a boat, these are like anchors that anchor the boat and you cannot move, right? And each of these different aparads, we may have, variations of them. We may have multiple of them. Each one has a different set according to our past karma. And each one may be stronger than the other, different intensities. So for some anarthas are very strong, some are very weak, some are greater in number. It's all relative to each devotee. Now, what is interesting is all the demons killed by Krishna and Lord Balaram, Shri Krishna and Lord Balaram, they represent all these different anarthas. And Prabhupada, in 1969, one of, you could say, the 5th book that Srila Prabhupada published for the world was Krishna book. Even though Sutta Goswami and the Bhagavatam is describing we need to systematically go to all the 9 cantos to go to the 10th canto, Prabhupada gave us the 10th canto with his purport. So Prabhupada took the 10th canto, wrote it in a form of a story book with the proper philosophical embellishment so that people don't misunderstand, and then gave Krishna book to the world. And in the preface to Krishna book, Prabhupada writes, "We therefore request everyone to take advantage of this great transcendental literary work. One will find that by reading one page after another, an immense treasure of knowledge in art, science, literature, philosophy, and religion will be revealed. And ultimately, by reading this one book, Krishna, love of God, will fructify." And Prabhupada instituted that in every temple in the evening, the devotees would have hot milk. Before they take rest, they would have hot milk and they read Krishna book every evening. So reading Krishna book is also very, very conducive for our bhakti. Why? It's purifying. By reading Krishna book before we take rest, we can remember Krishna. And as Prabhupada is saying, ultimately we can develop love for Krishna. Now here is another wonderful reason. As we mentioned, that all the demons that Krishna killed, they all represent different anarthas. And by reading that specific chapter related to that specific demon, whatever qualities that demon represents, those demonic tendencies, anarthas in your heart, will become purified and cleansed. So here is a list, and I'm not going to go through all the 70 obstacles. Here's a list of 70 obstacles or anarthas that are destroyed by reading Krishna book. You can always come back to this video, it will be posted. You can go through your reference. So look at your anarthas that you wrote, the top 3 anarthas, right? And find that in this list. So for example, I'm going to, let's say, anger. Let's see if anger here. Let's see. Okay, anger is not here. Attachment, addiction. So here's one, number 20, addiction, drinking alcohol. So if somebody has an addiction, specifically in terms of addiction to drinking alcohol, if he reads chapter 10, Liberation of Yamala Arjuna trees, that chapter, by reading, he can become free from this anartha. Here's some habits. So bad habits towards others, tendency to harass them, desire for honor, illicit sex, intoxication. Here's another one for intoxication. Fighting against the opinion of others, fame, lust. Somebody has a problem with lust, they can read Ulamba Sula chapter 18. Somebody has a tendency to lie, speaks lies, and it's like they know, right? You have you have an anartha, you know that you have this tendency to lie. You know it's bad, but you can't help yourself. Why? Because these anarthas are deep-rooted and they are driving forces. So they'll force you to act. So somebody knows I have this tendency to lie and I can't give up this tendency. Therefore, he can read the killing of Vermasura, chapter 37. And in this way, by reading the chapter regularly, it will purify that tendency. Okay, so like this, you can go through these different sections of different anarthas. Naturally, by reading the Bhagavatam and by going through the Bhagavatam, every anartha can be destroyed. These are more specific in terms of the demons that Krishna killed, but you can, by Krishna consciousness, purify every single anartha. Okay, now these anarthas, they also allow us to practice unsteady devotional service. And now I'm going to cover the devotional services in the different modes. We will cover this also in the 3rd canto. So if you look at, there are 3 modes of material nature: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And you can permutate them. Sattva, 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 rajas, sattva, tamas. Rajas, sattva, rajas, 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 tamas. Tamas, sattva, tamas, rajas, and tamas, tamas. Therefore, you get 9. And there are also 9 different practices of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Sakyam, and Atmanivedam. That means 9 times 9 variations, 81. And you can also then, have different permutations even further. So the permutations can go in infinite number of varieties, but generally broadly categorized 81 different varieties of devotional services that can be practiced in the different modes. We're going to cover some of the characteristics of these devotional practices so that you can identify what type of devotional service are you performing. So devotional service in the mode of ignorance, tamasa bhakti. And there's different tamasa, high, example, lower level category, high level category, and highest level of tamasa. Different types of tamasa is there. So the motive in the first category is with a desire to destroy others, driven by unlimited desire to lord over. And then the symptoms are anger, grudges, harshness due to greed of material want. An example is Diti, who performed the Pums Savana Samskar, destroy or kill Indra. Then the next level of Tamasa Bhakti is with a show of honesty, but internally with the intention to cheat others. Here the symptoms are hypocrisy, arrogance, fault-finding, shamelessness, and show of pride. Example is Duryodhan calling Krishna for a feast to obtain favor from Krishna, or even Jarasan. These are different examples. Then the next category is out of competition by seeing someone else perform such service. Jealousy or ambition. Daksha worshipping the Lord to compete with Lord Shiva. So you can see here, one is performing devotional service, but with anger, with grudge, with harshness, with greed for material want, hypocritically, with arrogance, fault finding, for shamelessness, to show off, jealousy, ambition. This is bhakti in the mode of ignorance. Then we get bhakti in the mode of passion. Bhakti performed with a desire for material objects. This desire arises due to idea of sense gratification. So for example, you hear someone praising us, it's pleasing to our ears. So when somebody praises, then you find, oh, this is very nice, they praise me, that's enjoying. Or satisfying one's ego by expecting a garland of praises, or beautiful men and women, beautiful surroundings around us, then it's pleasing to our eyes. So you really interested in satisfying your material, your desires. That's Rajasic Bhakti. So examples of that, the first category is with a desire to obtain sense gratification. Symptoms are greed to please the tongue, eyes, ears, or skin. Kubja was an example. Next category is with a desire to obtain name, fame, bank balance, become learned. Symptoms are ambition, ambitious activities to become recognized and glorified directly or indirectly by be surrounded by people, to plan and arrange for proclaiming one's own glory. Example of Dhruva. Now, even though Dhruva Maharaj is given here as an example, this is initially Dhruva Maharaj had that type of bhakti. But very quickly, Dhruva Maharaj overcame that type of bhakti, this lower type of devotion. And when Krishna actually appeared to him, he recognized his mistake. And he said, I was searching for broken pieces of glass and now I got a dime. So he recognized his mistake. Then the next category is what a desire to accumulate wealth or material objects, greed for new and newer objects, also Dhruva Maharaj. So here we can see in Rajasic Bhakti, you perform it generally to satisfy your senses. There's also ambition to get glory, get fame. You want things. So even in the process of bhakti, sometimes people want one position after another, or they want things to enjoy, or you engage in the process of bhakti because it satisfies your senses, right? Even if it's the opposite gender. So in this way, you're performing bhakti in the circle, in the arena of devotional service, but in the mode of passion. Then in a mode of goodness, you get, here it's a little more higher. So there's with the desire to destroy previous sins, and the quality is fearful and repentful. Example is Indra, after killing Vritsasura, performed the Ashwamedha Yagya. Next category of sattva, madhyam, bhakti, with a desire to obtain liberation, look for peace of mind. Example, Gajendra. Then with a desire to carry out his prescribed duties as duty, carefully in executing prescribed duties, devoted to prescribed duties. Yudhishthir Maj, example. Or even Govinda crossing over Shijat Mahaprabhu. Also, that's classified also as pure devotion. So we can see as we progress from tamas to rajas to sattva, it needs to become more and more pure, ultimately coming to this level where we carefully performing our prescribed duties in devotional service with the intention ultimately to please Krishna and the spiritual master. So the focus of tamas is generally on others, exploiting others for one's benefit. In rajas, it's for oneself and getting whatever one can for oneself. In sattva, the focus is on duties and actions. And ultimately, we want to come to the level of pure sudasattva, pure goodness. And there the intention is we want to dutifully perform our activities in bhakti, but for the pleasure of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, and remembering Krishna while we're performing that service. This is the highest level. And as we covered, this devotional service becomes pure devotional service when it's uninterrupted and there is no other ulterior motive, which is in mode of tamas and rajas. So now in the concluding verses, or concluding slides, we like to cover how to effectively progress on this path. So we covered the different roadmaps of bhakti in relation to other scriptures. We then looked at the different anarthas, categories of anarthas, source of anarthas, categories of anarthas. Right? Now we're going to cover how to effectively stay on this road and manage these anarthas. We all have anarthas, and we should have a list of anarthas and monitor those anarthas as we're progressing. We should be able to see that the anarthas are dissipating more and more. Some will dissipate immediately. Some will take some time, few weeks, few months. Some may take few years. Right? It all depends on the type of anartha. Different anarthas also dissipate at different stages, like Vaishnava aparad. This dissipates only when you are pure lover of Krishna. Even at the stage of bhava, if you committed Vaishnava aparad, even at the stage of bhava, it can impact and allow you to fall, like Jad Bharat. Okay? So we have to be very careful of the different anarthas. They are obstacles on this path. Now we can learn from these personalities how to continue on this path of bhakti. From Queen Kunti, we can learn how to look back and thank Krishna for the challenges that taught us how to remember Krishna. Queen Kunti always prayed to Krishna, please bring more and more distress again and again, because every time there's distressful conditions, I can remember you. So we can learn from Queen Kunti to look back and thank Krishna. Then from Dhruva Maj, from Prahlad Maj, we can look forward and trust in Krishna. Prahlad Maj had firm trust in Krishna in every situation. No matter what came up in the future, he trusted Krishna. So look back and thank Krishna. Look forward and trust Krishna. Dhruva Maj, we can learn from Dhruva Maj, look within and find Krishna. And with Prabhupada, look outside and see Krishna and engage everything in Krishna's service. See everything in relation to Krishna and use everything in Krishna's service. So in this way, back, forward, inside and outside, if we meditate on these personalities, we can continue on this path of bhakti. There is sacrifice on this path of bhakti, but the sacrifice is very, very simple. Prabhupada generally encouraged the devotees that of all the senses, let's just try to control the sense, the tongue, sense of taste and vibration. The tongue is the most powerful. So let us only taste Krishna Prasad. If we only honor Krishna Prasad and simply vibrate with the tongue Krishna's glories, the holy name of Krishna, these two activities of taking Krishna Prasad and chanting Hare Krishna, chanting the glories of Krishna, together with hearing, will help us effectively move on this path of bhakti. We should also understand the Lord is everyone's friend, and is especially friendly to the surrendered soul. So no matter what your challenge is, you should know you have a friend to speak to. You can speak to Krishna. You can reveal your mind to Krishna. You can tell Krishna, Krishna, please help me. I have this obstacle. Please remove this obstacle. When you take Krishna as your friend and reveal your mind and heart to Krishna, Krishna will do what's best for you. He will help you and purify you. Here's a very beautiful pastime in relation to how we can actually be attached to our anarthas. So prior to approaching Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, for Harinam initiation, a bearded headmaster was screened by senior disciples. The man professed, if Prabhupada orders me, I am prepared to jump into fire. So Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was also called Prabhupada. So the man is screening him. The devotees, senior disciples are screening him, and the man says, this professor, headmaster says, if Prabhupada orders me, I'm prepared to jump into fire. So it's very sincere. But when in the presence of Saraswati Thakur, he was asked to shave, the man retorted that he liked his beard and was not prepared to relinquish it. He gave various arguments for preserving his carefully preened hairs, one being traditionally many sadhus kept beards. Finally, Srila Saraswati Thakur told him, either you love your beard or you love Krishna. If you want Krishna, then give up your hair. One of them should be dear to you. Krishna is our priya, dear one. If anything else is our priya, it is impossible to get Krishna. A disciple present started laughing, that if the headmaster were actually ready to enter fire, then certainly he would lose his beard. Yet the headmaster decided to keep his beard and left without taking Harinam initiation. Shortly afterwards, in a bicycle accident, his beloved whiskers got caught in the mechanism of the cycle and were forcibly and painfully removed. Now sheared of his beard, as well as much of his egotism, he again submitted himself to Srila Saraswati Thakur and was accepted for initiation. So we can see how he was attached. And Krishna made arrangements because he was sincere, so Krishna made arrangements to purify him of his beard. So like that, sometimes we know it's wrong, but it's like the anarthas are holding on to us for some reason. But it's really our attachment to these anarthas. And we can pray to Krishna and use our tongue for tasting Krishna Prasad and for glorifying Krishna. We should not use our tongue for anything else. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us a list of 8 categories of prajalpa, which are also anarthas, which can hinder our progress. 1, useless talks, not about Lord Hari. Arguments, godless quarrel, not based on the Vedas. Gossip, talking about other people's to establish one's own reputation. Debates, fault finding in others, speaking falsehood, blaspheming devotees, and worldly talks. So these are different prajalpas, Gramya Katha, not beneficial for us. So we should focus on Krishna Prasad, chanting Hare Krishna, and speaking about Krishna. And finally, Prabhupada tells us about becoming free from anarthas. If you progressing on this path and you want to see, what is the goal, what's happening to me, Prabhupada writes, the grossest type of anarthas, which binds the conditioned soul in material existence, is sex desire. And this sex desire gradually develops in union of male and female. When male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggravated by the accumulation of building, children, friends, relatives, and wealth. When all these are acquired, the conditioned soul becomes overwhelmed by such entanglements and the false sense of egoism or sense of minus, of myself and mine. If one is sincere, he is initiated at this stage, and this stage is called bhajana kriya. By bhajana kriya, one attains freedom from the contamination of materialistic life. He no longer goes to a restaurant or hotel to taste so-called palatable dishes because made with meat and onions, nor does he care to smoke or drink tea or coffee. He not only refrains from illicit sex, but avoids sex life entirely, nor is he interested in wasting his time in speculating or gambling. In this way, it is to be understood that one is becoming cleansed of unwanted things, anartha nivrtti. The word anartha refers to unwanted things. Anartha are vanquished when one becomes attached to Krishna conscious movement. Anartha's unwanted things come down from one bodily life to another. To get out of this entanglement, one has to take to the devotional service of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word guru is significant in this connection. The word guru may be translated as heavy or supreme. In other words, the guru is the spiritual master. And a very beautiful point by Srila Prabhupada in conclusion. One devotee called Gopikanta raised his hand and asked Prabhupada, both as an affirmation of his service as a full-time distributor and for the benefit of others. And his question was, we know there are many things that please you, Srila Prabhupada. We would like to know what would please you the most. Prabhupada's reply was brief and to the point. Understand Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, become perfect, and distribute his knowledge to your fellow countrymen. So even if we have obstacles, we should still continue to understand Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And by applying what we read, what we hear, we can become perfect. And while we're doing that, we can help distribute this knowledge. And we should have firm faith in these scriptures and in Prabhupada as the person Bhagavat. Srila Prabhupada is especially for us very merciful because he's our grandfather. And it's explained that the grandfather is more merciful than the father. So we have Srila Prabhupada's mercy, his shelter, his guidance. And we have Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's friendship. So if we personally reveal our heart, reveal our mind, be open to them, be honest and sincere. And if we see that as an obstacle, we repent, we continue practicing with determination, then every single anartha, big, small, tiny, doesn't matter. Every single anartha can be crushed, can be cleansed, and we can overcome anartha nivrtti and come to the stage of steadiness and then progress from there. And that brings us to the end of this session on the Bhakti Roadmap. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We'll take any questions or comments anyone has. So Sham had a question. I heard from a lecturer, we first take birth in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and thereafter we take birth in Lord Krishna's pastimes. Please clarify. This is first in material universe as you highlighted. So as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have two journeys. One is we are in two pastimes. We are in the pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which means following Srila Prabhupada, the preaching mission. So we are in Chaitanya Lila. And as part of the process of Krishna consciousness, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has presented, preaching the philosophy of Bhagavatam, that we are servants of Krishna and we cultivate, revive our dormant loving relation with Krishna, we are now connected to Krishna Lila. So we connected to both, right? Therefore, when we perfect our life, we are perfecting our relationship with Krishna, and we also will continue our journey wherever Srila Prabhupada is in his service in Krishna consciousness, and therefore we'll go to two places at the same time. And both we will perfect our relationship with Krishna, where Krishna is performing his pastimes, and we will also perfect our relationship in the Sankirtan mission, becoming more and more pure and ultimately becoming pure devotees, serving Srila Prabhupada wherever he wants us to serve. And then finally, we will return back to the spiritual world. So in relation to our journey with Krishna, it's explained that when we perfect our relationship with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Sankirtan mission, by the mercy of Prabhupada, we automatically dive into Krishna Lila. Okay? So they both happen simultaneously. The book Krishna is very dear to me. I love it. Krishna book, very good. And I've realized you cannot be the same once you read it and will know and understand Krishna. Yes, Krishna book is very nice. And if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, your anarthas are getting removed, you're not going to be the same person. Viresh Prabhu says, thanks. Release from shackles of cycle of birth and death seems to be a goal of Krishna consciousness and belongs to the path of eternal platform. How come it is listed under the third type of anartha as a thirst for temporary? Yes. So our goal, as we discussed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not say, please take me back to the spiritual world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays, birth after birth, give me devotional service. So that is the ultimate. Whether I go back to the spiritual or not is immaterial. I'm a servant of Krishna. Krishna, if you want me, you can take me back and engage me there. If you want me, you can keep me here and engage me here. Wherever you want me, you can engage me. Therefore, we're not praying for liberation. We're not praying to get free from birth and death. We are praying to Krishna, give me service, wherever you want. Prahlad Maharaj says, send me to hell, no problem. Send me wherever. I will preach Krishna consciousness. So that's why even now Prabhupada did say that in the beginning, for neophytes, it's conducive to desire to go back to the spiritual world. Right? It's conducive that this material world is a place of suffering, I want to go back. That's conducive. But as you advance, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown in the Shishastika prayers, Mama Janmani Janmanishwara, I'm not interested in anything, but birth after birth, give me devotional service. So therefore, as one progresses, eventually the impetus to practice Krishna consciousness to go back to the spiritual world. As one advances, then the impetus becomes Krishna, whatever you want. You can handle me roughly by your embrace or make me broken hearted by not being present before me. Whatever you do, you're still my unworshipable Lord unconditionally. So therefore, it's still classified as an anartha, as a motive. And we want to become free from that motive. Vasaraj Prabhu says, we can also use bank card, money, aeroplane in service of Krishna, Yukta Vairaga. Correct. So Prabhupada in that lecture is telling us that these are all anarthas, unwanted. Now, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, coming in line through Prabhupada, we are now given the philosophy to say, okay, they've created useless things, they've created anarthas, but let us use those anarthas, unwanted things, in the service of Krishna, only for the pleasure of Krishna, and only in the service of Krishna. In that way, we benefit them. We give them a Gyata Sukriti. For us, we don't need it. But for propagating Krishna consciousness, we can use that. So Prabhupada used everything in Krishna's service. In that way, he even used the unwanted things and give them the devotional credits. So that's the expertise of the pure devotee. So we can definitely use that in the service of Krishna. All right. Then our Ishtadev is Lord Chaitanya. Can we also worship other deities? Example, Lakshmi Nishinga, Radha Krishna. So, yes, all the deities that Srila Prabhupada has given us, Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, all the deities, Jagannath, Bal, Subhadra, all these deities we can worship. And by worshiping all these deities that Srila Prabhupada has given us, we will become free from our anarthas, and our relationship with Krishna, in whichever form, will revive. And at that point, we will know our Ishtadev, our true Ishtadev. Okay? In the beginning, they all are there for us to help us, and we worship them all. But our true relationship will be revived at a stage of bhava. At a stage of bhava is when we will actually know who our true Ishtadev, our true, who is our true worshipable Lord in the spiritual world. There's another question. After practicing for a long time, like 20 years, I feel that I'm still in the beginning stage and my faith dwindles quite a bit. And I don't feel like I've made a lot of progress. Is it because of all these anarthas? As you were going through the list, I noticed I have many of those. Does this mean that the past years have been a waste, or can we still make progress? Also, if we have intense anarthas and committed great offenses and sins, even while practicing devotional service, do we still have a chance or hope in this lifetime to attain Krishna, or all is lost? So all is never lost. And therefore, it is important that we have this roadmap. We have clarity of the different stages. We know the different characteristics at different stages. And we practice with that greed, with that lobha. I wanted that mango lassi. So I want Krishna's relationship. I want to serve Krishna. I want pure devotion to Krishna. So that if you have that sincerity that I want Krishna, then with that sincerity, I should chant the holy name attentively. With that sincerity, I should practice sincerely, attentively. So very often when we start the journey of Krishna consciousness, it's like a traveler, who is like not urgent. Yeah, it's just keep going, no problem. It's very complacent. And if you're complacent, if you become casual, you can become a casualty. So therefore, yes, I remember after chanting for 20 years, then I started going to Madhurya Kanabina. I'm looking at this thing, wow, man, it's like I wasted 20 years of my life. If I knew this, when I started, I could have been more attentive. But, you can't lament. So at least now you are aware. So no matter whatever practice you've done, you never will lose that benefit. There's always benefit. if there's any anarthas that are there, we should, as you can take, especially the top ones, make the list of the top ones, start practicing for the next 1, 2, 3 years, and you want to see that they're becoming weaker. Eventually they dissipating. And you can always pray to Krishna, pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. Please remove these obstacles, right? Develop that relationship with them, speak to them, reveal your heart. If there's any offenses that one feels that one have committed to devotees, just forgive and forget, right? Let it, because that's history. Don't let the past hold you back. And always know that no matter what your history is, it says every saint, was a sinner, and every sinner can become a saint. There's no obstacle and no past that can hold one if one wants to change. So we should have that firm faith. Our past may, give us some karmic reaction, but we have full, independent, and free will to surrender to Krishna. So nothing is lost. It's never lost. And you can, by Prabhupada's mercy, by practicing nicely and seriously with good association, nice attentive japa, you can become purified, no doubt. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, thanks for giving the world Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada, all glory Srila Prabhupada for giving the world Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna book, etc. So we all can benefit, and then also for ordering us to give it to others. Yes. Mother Lesh, Hare Krishna, thank you for Krishna Katha. Today was a very heavy session. Yes, it is. It was like looking into a dirty mirror, and every slide you went through served as a duster and cleansed the mirror more and more. So now I have no choice but to see myself, my real situation, and understand what my real action have been thus far. Very eye-opening session today. The road ahead is long, but many a winding turn. Please share a list of 70 anarthas on the group so I can pointedly and specifically start monitoring these daily. Now, one thing is, yes, the anarthas are there, and we don't want to focus on the anarthas. Even though I shared, the presentation in terms of the focus on the anartha, we want to be careful to not let the mind ponder on the anarthas. Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Think of me. He doesn't say man anarthas, right? Don't think of the anarthas. Have the anarthas there, understand that this is an obstacle, because generally when an anartha surfaces, it will prevent you from thinking about Krishna. When an anartha surfaces, it will stop you from engaging in Krishna consciousness. That's when you should be aware that, oh, see, this anartha is stopping me from serving Krishna. Therefore, I need to become even more determined to overcome this anartha by thinking of Krishna. Or make arrangements so that the anartha doesn't surface. Be aware of when the anartha triggers. Be aware that what can I do so that I shield myself, just like that fencing, right? I shield myself so the anartha doesn't come. If you have good association, that good association will always protect you from bad anarthas, right? So the anarthas are there. Our goal, in one sense, is be aware of the anarthas. Try, especially if they're surfacing, you want to monitor them, but try to take all your effort and energy and apply it in a positive sense. By hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna, engaging in devotional service, chanting japa, chanting in kirtan, taking Krishna prasad, right? Engaging in the Sankirtan mission, just dovetail, just engage yourself nicely in Krishna service. Right? And in the background, just keep aware that these anarthas don't surface. And as you practice nicely, seriously, attentively, you will find that the anarthas will just drop off, okay? And eventually your heart will become lighter and more cleaner. And as you mentioned, like that mirror, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used an example. If you have a very dirty mirror, you can't see yourself. But as you cleanse the mirror, slowly your reflection becomes more and more clear. So yes, it is an important section. We should know about it and be aware of it. At the same time, don't get too distracted. Don't get paranoid about all the anarthas, right? At least know your big ones and use the big ones as a yardstick to see, is the process effectively cleansing me? Because it must, guaranteed. No matter what type of anartha it is, there is no anartha that can face the power of the practice of devotional service. No anartha. Madhavachana Siddhi, Hare Krishna Bro, thank you for those wonderful class that made me realize that I have a long way to go. We all have a long way to go. The beauty is, as I said, we're on the right road. And we may think we have a long way to go. That's good. Because if you think, well, I'm already back to Godhead, that may be premature. But yes, we have a long way to go. But we know that this road can become very short by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So that faith we should have. Virash, all the demons from our scriptures seem to have greater anarthas than all of us put together, like Hiranyakashipu. Most still got liberation. So the liberation they got is Sayuja Mukti, impersonal liberation. They did not get the other three forms of liberation, Sarupya, Samipya, Shasti. They didn't get that liberation. They didn't get liberation in the spiritual world. They got impersonal liberation, they merge into Krishna's effulgence. So that liberation is different. And they got that liberation because Krishna killed. Hare Krishna, thank you for your extensive research and presentation of our benefit. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, let me clarify. I want to implement Prabhupada's instructions to his devotees. I want to read Krishna book before that. So I want to know which section to read based on my list. Yes. So I will definitely post that list for you. So you can, at least, start reading from the beginning, but definitely select according to the anarthas. It's also good to start reading those specific sections. And when you're reading, just like when you go to the Holy Dham, when you go to Vrindavan Dham, in Vrindavan Dham, each place where Krishna killed the different demons or performed the different pastimes, those pastime places are also personification of personalities. They're personified. So you can even go to the Holy Dham and pray to the Holy Dham, to every dust particle of Vrindavan dust in that specific place where Krishna performed these pastimes, and your desires will get fulfilled. Similarly with Krishna book, it is non-different from Krishna, so you can also pray to Krishna that I have this anartha, please, through your pastimes, through your glories, please purify. So I cannot stress enough your relationship with Krishna, your communion with Krishna, your speaking with Krishna, right? Speak to him. Let him know that you know about the anarthas. Let him know that Krishna, you please help me, please purify me. I can't do that on my own, right? And let him, because he's in your heart, and he will, if he sees your desire, he will help you purify. And try to keep good association, because that good association helps the journey. It's explained, if you're taking a very arduous journey, long distance journey, if you're taking it alone, it can be very austere. But if you take it with a group of like-minded, serious devotees, then the journey becomes fun. Just like one time we had a proper disciple, and we had to take him to Durban. So we drove in the car, and from beginning to end, we were asking, he was telling us Prabhupada pastimes, and we didn't want the journey to end. So like that, when you with like-minded devotees, then it helps you with your obstacles, with your anarthas, and try to get a taste for hearing, chanting, kirtan, Krishna Prasad. That way, your journey will be relishable. Enjoy the process. The goal is perfect. The goal is nectarian, super nectarian. At the same time, enjoy the process. The process, sukartam aveyam. The process is joyfully performed. Okay, so joyfully practice the process. So I will send the sheet, and the devotees can use that appropriately accordingly. Thank you very much. Was right to commit yesterday, and I said in my prayer, Krishna, I'm chanting your holy names, irregardless of my impure heart and dirty lips. I just cannot stop it. Yes, that is good. That's a good meditation to, because we don't have the purity, but yet Krishna is merciful, allowing us to chant, so we can be grateful in that way. Thank you very much for everyone's questions and attendance. Next week, I will post the verses that we're going to cover for next week. We're going to continue on in this chapter. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gokpramanande.